Apple recently introduced the all-new 15-inch MacBook Air at their annual WWDC 2023 event, which is the laptop that many people have been asking for years. Apple listened and we got it. In this video, I'll explain why this is probably the best 15-inch laptop on the market right now, period. Let's get the video started. Before the 15-inch MacBook Air, if you want to get a big screen laptop, you'd have to go for laptops that are meant for gaming or professional use, such as the Razer Blade 15, Dell XPS 15, or the 16-inch MacBook Pro. Because of the lack of consumer-level large-screen laptops, most people would just get those laptops just for their large displays, when in reality, they have no use for the high performance they offer. If a grandma walks into an Apple store and just wants a big laptop, her only option before the 15-inch MacBook Air came out would be the 16-inch MacBook Pro. And these laptops are expensive. A base model 16-inch MacBook Pro would set you back $2,500, and not to mention that they're really heavy too due to all the hardware that's required for their high performance, which are of no use for regular consumers that just want a big screen. The 13-inch MacBook Air is already a fantastic laptop with its thin and light design, so Apple just scaled it up and made the 15-inch MacBook Air to bridge the gap for a consumer 15-inch laptop in the market. Again, the 15-inch MacBook Air is basically just a scaled-up version of the smaller counterpart introduced last year, the 13-inch M2 MacBook Air. So even with the larger screen and size, still a MacBook Air nonetheless. Unlike most 15-inch laptops, which are heavy and are hard to carry around, the 15-inch MacBook Air only weighs 1.5 kilograms and is just over a centimeter in thickness, making it even slightly thinner than the original iPhone. This makes it extremely portable and incredibly easy to carry. As you can see here, it's slightly smaller in size than the 16-inch MacBook Pro, and it's also significantly thinner and lighter. I'm going to compare it to my 16-inch Intel MacBook Pro a lot of times throughout this video, since the Intel 16-inch MacBook Pro is a pretty good general representation of most professional laptops. The build quality isn't compromised by this thinness though. It's entirely made out of aluminum, so there's no deck flex and it doesn't bend either. I like Apple's new design language. The design looks so minimalistic and it just looks like a slab of metal that sits on your desk. Compared to other 16-inch laptops, I think most consumers will enjoy this form factor the most, just because its thin build is just so different compared to most 15-inch laptops on the market right now. It charges via MagSafe, and it's awesome that Apple brought back the superior charging port. It magnetically snaps into place, so you can plug in your computer without even looking at where the port is. And the cable is braided and color matched too, which is a nice touch. There's also two USB-C ports on the left and a headphone jack on the right. The USB-C ports support Thunderbolt 3 and USB 4 speeds, up to 40 gigabits per second, but it sadly only supports outputting to one external display. It also doesn't have any USB-A ports, but I doubt you can even fit one in this design because of its thinness. But overall, it's a solid design that's light, easy to carry, and durable while having a 15-inch display. Speaking of the display, let's take a more in-depth look at it. It's a 15.4-inch diagonal Retina display. Nothing fancy, it's not HDR nor 120Hz unlike the MacBook Pros, but it gets the job done just fine, and it's more than enough for most people. As a Retina display, it has a resolution of 2880 by 1864 and a pixel density of 224 pixels per inch, so your eyes cannot discern the individual pixels. It goes up to 500 nits of brightness, which is more than bright enough for indoor use and is fine for most outdoors use. It also supports P3 white color, so it's also really color accurate, but I doubt a lot of people would notice that. Its view angle is also really wide, and there's barely any color shift when viewing it from extreme angles. Of course, as part of Apple's new design language, there's a notch on the top, which houses a 1080p Full HD webcam. The expansive 50-inch display offers significantly more screen area for extra windows and content compared to the smaller 13-inch version, so watching a video or TV show on the 15-inch MacBook Air feels significantly more immersive than the smaller counterpart. And the better multimedia experience is enhanced by its slightly better speakers compared to the 13-inch, which I'll go over in more detail later. No matter if you're just watching videos or playing games, it's a great display for nearly all situations. Overall, this 50-inch display is brilliant and most people will be more than happy to have such a big display on a MacBook Air. As a MacBook Air, it obviously has less powerful processors compared to the MacBook Pros, but that does not mean it's not fast. I have the base model here with 8GB of unified memory, 256GB of storage, and the M2 processor with 8 CPU cores and 10 GPU cores. Oddly enough, the 15-inch model comes with an M-bin full M2 chip with 10 GPU cores by default, while the base model 13-inch Air only comes with 8 GPU cores, which is interesting. It looks intimidating with this thin and fanless design, but it's actually a beast on the inside. The M2 chip, the worst processor in Apple's M2 lineup, still managed to score an impressive 9,881 points in Geekbench 6. For comparison, my Intel 16-inch MacBook Pro, which was $2,400 less than 2 years ago, scored a comparatively really weak 5768 points. This makes the 15-inch Air over 71% faster than the Intel 16-inch Pro with a 9th Gen 6-core i7. For additional comparison, my Ryzen 7 3700X gaming PC, which has a huge heatsink, and I don't even know how many fans, scored only 6949 points. Yeah, the M2 chip is just that good, and keep in mind that this MacBook Air is completely fanless. It's the same story in Cinebench R23. Though the gap is a bit smaller, the MacBook Air is still significantly faster than my 16-inch Intel MacBook Pro. It scored 8,310 points, which makes this 15-inch MacBook Air 31% faster, at least on paper, while being completely fanless and silent and being so much thinner and lighter. And yes, even though it's fanless, it doesn't get hot at all thanks to the efficiency of Apple Silicon, and managed to stay significantly cooler compared to my Intel 16-inch MacBook Pro, with 2 fans spinning at full speed. Just think of Apple Silicon Macs as iPads with the screen on the hinge. Moving on to real-world tests, I have a 10-minute long 4K video here in Final Cut Pro. I'm just going to color grade it a bit and then export it. As expected, thanks to the M2 processor's built-in media encoding engines, the 15-inch MacBook Air finished exporting it in 6 minutes and 22 seconds, compared to the Intel 16-inch MacBook Pro's 6 minutes and 41 seconds, which makes the Air 19 seconds faster. You could technically get an even better result if you upgraded the storage to 512GB or more, since it has been revealed that the 256GB models have slower SSD speeds. But at this point, the SSD speed difference is so small that most consumers probably won't even notice it at all. I also made my own performance benchmark that I don't see anyone else using. It's simple. Open every single app and see how long it takes them to open them all. The 15-inch MacBook Air opened every single app on this computer in just 1 minute and 14 seconds while being completely silent and it's just a tad bit warm, while the Intel 16-inch MacBook Pro not only opened them 1 minute and 54 seconds slower, but its fans were also screaming, trying to get the hot air out of it. Again, it's crazy how fast and snappy it is for such a thin and light machine. So even though it's not meant for performance-intensive tasks, you can still absolutely edit some 4K videos and high-resolution photos and even run some Apple Arcade games on this with no problem. In fact, due to its dedicated media encoders, I actually preferred editing videos on this to my 16-inch MacBook Pro with a Radeon Pro 5300M GPU. If you're a regular user, then you'll encounter zero lag or slowdowns on this laptop. It never overheats and it stays completely silent. It's just that good. But how well does the battery life hold up though? Well, it's simply incredible. It's so good that it's almost like witchcraft. As I mentioned before, Apple Silicon chips are not only extremely powerful, but they're also very energy efficient. It should be obvious that this laptop has a good battery life, when its processor quite literally draws 15 watts of power max. And there's no fan sipping up battery either. It has a bigger battery than the 13-inch model, obviously, but its battery life is rated the same as the 13-inch MacBook Air on Apple's website, 18 hours of video playback. So I guess the bigger screen and bigger battery cancel out. Anyways, you can go for days without charging this thing. You plug it in and charge it to 100 and you won't even have to worry about charging it for a long while. I am not exaggerating this one bit, but it took me almost an hour of light usage to go from 100% to 99%. The 16-inch Intel MacBook Pro was praised for its large battery size and its long battery life, but this MacBook Air just blows it out of the water. How long did it take for it to get down to 20% battery? Multiple days of usage, web browsing, video editing, and running all those performance tests I've shown earlier in this video. While it only takes 1 day of heavy usage to kill my Intel 16-inch MacBook Pro almost completely. There's simply not a single large screen laptop out there, maybe except for the 16-inch Apple Silicon MacBook Pro, that can offer you this kind of battery life, and you definitely won't have any problems with it. The keyboard is awesome as usual. It's clicky, tactile, and has a millimeter of key travel. The days of the butterfly keyboard are far behind us now. Here's how the keys sound when you're typing. There's a full-size row of function keys on the top, so volume and brightness controls are really straightforward. On the top right is a large Touch ID button that also doubles as a power button. It's a shame that there's no Face ID even though it has a notch, but Touch ID is fine nonetheless. It also has a really large Force Touch trackpad, considerably bigger than the 13-inch MacBook Air, as expected, since there's more space for the trackpad. And unlike most other mainstream trackpads, you can click it anywhere, even at the top, because of the Force Touch technology. Meaning this trackpad doesn't actually click and it's basically a giant glass surface you can tap on. It does give you a convincingly real haptic feedback when you press on it though, simulating a real click. And because it's Force Touch, it also has pressure sensitivity, so you can access additional actions when you press harder on the trackpad. Due to its larger chassis, Apple is able to put more speaker hardware into the 15-inch model compared to the 13-inch model, so it should theoretically sound slightly louder and better than the 13-inch MacBook Air. Its two speaker modules are housed at the top of the chassis, and it's really kind of weird seeing a 15-inch MacBook without any speaker grills. Its speakers are really good and support spatial audio, so it should be fine for most day-to-day use such as watching videos, listening to music, and video conferencing. However, it's still not quite as good as the 16-inch MacBook Pro, which I assume is because of space constraints. It's simply too thin to fit any kind of professional speaker system. The speakers are not bad, just don't expect to be blown away by them or anything. It's the same story for the microphones. They're good quality and are more than enough for video calls and voice recordings, just don't expect to record a podcast with them. In the notch is a 1080p webcam. It's a good quality webcam, and combined with the image processing powers of the M2 chip, it should produce video that's sharp enough for most day-to-day usage. Overall, the hardware on the 15-inch MacBook Air is great and it's more than enough for regular use, especially the keyboard and trackpad. But they're not quite professional level, so don't expect studio quality speakers or anything. Now, the big and ultimate question. Is the new 15-inch MacBook Air worth it for $1,300? The price might seem a bit high, but absolutely, yes it is. You simply cannot find another 15-inch laptop on the market right now that offers this amount of performance and this much battery life inside such a thin, light, and well-built package for this price. It doesn't even get slightly warm doing everyday tasks. It's completely silent because it's fanless. It's always so fast and snappy. It edits 4K videos, it renders Blender projects, and it plays video games. And its battery life feels like witchcraft, and it blows every single Intel laptop out of the water with its performance. All in this 1.5 kilogram package that's barely a centimeter thick. Come on, that's a lot you're getting for $1,300. Apple basically nailed all aspects of the ideal laptop, maybe except for intense gaming. It fits nicely and neatly into Apple's square of laptops. A small consumer laptop, the 13-inch MacBook Air, a big consumer laptop, the 15-inch MacBook Air right here, a small professional laptop, the 14-inch MacBook Pro, and the big professional laptop, the 16-inch MacBook Pro, with a $700 price gap separating the consumer and professional laptops. However, this score does break down a bit when you start to upgrade it. Apple's known for their ludicrously high prices for spec upgrades. The 8GB of shared memory is a bit small for modern standards if you're doing serious professional tasks or running a lot of apps at the same time. And although I wouldn't recommend upgrading the storage just for the faster SSD speeds, again, this difference is barely noticeable in most circumstances. 256GB of storage is a bit small for people that have a lot of files, and 512GB definitely should be the base storage in 2023. And once you upgrade both the RAM and storage to 16GB and 512GB respectively, the price goes up to $1,700. And at this point, you're just better off getting a 14-inch MacBook Pro instead. So it's best to upgrade just one of the two. The base model should be enough for most people, but if you're debating between getting more RAM or storage, I'd say go for a RAM upgrade, since you can always get more external storage later, but you're stuck with the amount of RAM you chose forever. But overall, at least in its base model, the 15-inch MacBook Air is definitely worth the price. So yeah, the 15-inch MacBook Air really is the best 15-inch laptop for the price on the market right now. There really isn't anything else quite like it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I emptied my entire wallet for this video, so if you found it helpful or interesting, please give it a like and subscribe for more tech content and reviews, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye!